Hey guys, long time no see. Yeah, it's been a while. Again, longer than usual. But I thought that life would not be as busy with a worldwide pandemic going on. It's been busy. I've been dealing with things and I've been tired. But I'm back just in time, probably a little late, to throw in my 2 cents on the Australian Royal Commission again, because not only did the Jehovah's Witnesses opt out, or I should say Watchtower opted out. We won't put it on the Jehovah's Witnesses. But they put out a statement detailing why. And putting it in no uncertain terms that they had no intention of joining. I don't know where they got the moral compass from, but I have an idea to fix their little dilemma coming up maybe in the next video today. We'll see. So if you haven't caught up to this yet, because even I live under a rock for a lot of things, based on the Australian Royal Commission's website, not reporting was a failure on its part to provide for the safety and protection of children. What are we talking about? 1,006 abusers by members of the organization were well documented. This is the abusers. And like my counselor says, behavior like this doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's usually going to be more than one victim. So 1,006 abusers that Watchtower knew of, kept documented records of, and did not report. They determined through testimony by the persons most qualified provided by Watchtower, who played a whole lot of passing the buck, to be completely honest, that children were not adequately protected. They determined through the same testimony that the organization does not respond adequately to allegations of abuse. And once again, I want to point out that not reporting it for clergy penitent privilege does not fit, because like I said in another video, some of these reports that they received were from children asking for help from the only people they were ever told that they could trust implicitly. A penitent is somebody who is looking for legal counsel and basically, remediation of sin through a religious authority. These children were not confessing to anything. They were asking for help. That is not a clergy penitent issue. And for them to try and construe it as such makes them no better than the third world hovels of a country where rapists are considered guilty, or rape victims, I should say, are considered guilty until proven innocent. It's disgusting. Anywho, based on the way that they handle abuse, they show a serious lack of understanding of the nature of child sexual abuse. Also, according to the Australian Royal Commission website, the disciplinary system for addressing abuse was not child or survivor focused. No, It was more or less about redemption of the sinner or alleged sinner, whatever. Because the Jehovah's Witnesses apparently have a sincere belief that they are capable of doing things that psychology and science have only been trying to figure out how to fix for decades. They are going to cure a pedophile of their pedophilia. Nah, fam, these people are freaking broke. That is not something for a bunch of uneducated dimwits in the back of a moldy kingdom hall to be trying to fix. They have no concept. They got no business in doing this crap. Moving on. The survivors were offered little to no choice in how the complaint is addressed. Basically, they were told to be quiet. They were told that they would bring reproach on God's organization. They were told that rumors and spreading of rumors was sinful. They were told all kinds of things. Basically, shut up and deal with it. And when it comes down to it, you're going to pretend none of this ever happened, and you're going to be just as friendly with this person as anybody else is that doesn't know. Because, as also established in the Australian Royal Commission, sanctions, punishments, are weak with little regard to the risk of reoffending, because once again, they sincerely believe that they are going to fix these people. They're idiots. I can tell you a lot of things that will fix the problem. I can't say it's legal and that it's not vigilante justice. But you're not going to fix the person. It's not your place to try. It's your place to protect the kids. You are a person of trust. And a person of responsibility in their world. You have authority in their world. Your job is to protect the children. Period. All right. So, now that I took way too long ranting and catching y'all up to what we're talking about, just in case, let's break apart their public statement. Basically, they've got fewer than 10 applicants who have responded or who have applied for redress, and they've responded, and they will continue to respond directly to these individuals in a caring, fair, and principled manner. And they will take into consideration the unique circumstances of each claim. That is not the comment word for word, but we're going to break this down just a little bit. First off, they acknowledged fewer than 10 applicants. When this whole thing started, it was promised to them that they would be outed. They would be named, they would be shamed, and everyone would know. What a perfect time when they know that these terrorized, traumatized, and abused individuals are so apprehensive of having to put it down on paper. The trauma that they went through, it hurts to even put down on paper. I've had to write out my abuse. It doesn't matter if you're not looking at your abuser in the face. These guys, who was it? Watchtower Examination or Analyzer, the Jamaican dude. He's awesome. They're behaving like rapists. They're counting on these people not coming forward because even trying to put words to it can be traumatizing. What a better time than now, when they're about to be outed, than to take advantage of this, because right now they have fewer than 10 applicants. What a great time to take accountability for a teeny tiny bit versus 1,006 perpetrators who more than likely had multiple victims. What a perfect time. I'm a little pissed. So what a perfect time to take accountability. A very small accountability. That way, when rank and file knows about it, because they've got this public statement on it, it's less than 10. You can't question these people on it, because the rank and file are going to be aware of only less than 10. You think that wasn't a plan? You think that wasn't in there as a strategy in their public statement? If you don't think that was part of their strategy, you're fooling yourself. Next off, they have responded. How? How have they responded in the past? What is the historical representation of how they've responded? Once again, they're counting on people not knowing. They're counting on the rank and file not knowing. They're saying that they've responded directly. I want to know how. I want details. Their public statement was not sufficient. If they've got to, I'd like for them to show, redacted documents proving how these responses were made. And have you responded to these 10? I feel like there's intentionally vague details provided, because that is the common theme in deception, is that you provide the pertinent details that make you look good and you leave out the rest. They said they've responded directly to these what? These 10? All 10 of them. What about the rest of them? Have you reached out to any other victims that you know for a fact that you've wronged? Have you given the elders in the local congregations who might have a guilty conscience over this stuff any means of trying to reach out to, make amends with, and offer some kind of redress to other victims? How have you done this? They said they will continue to respond directly. Directly as in, they don't want it public record. They don't want it known. And once again, we're on how. How? With their unproven claim as to how this was handled, and with as damaging and cruel as it was publicly established by the Australian Royal Commission, a government entity with better moral regards than a religious one. They established it was cruel. They established it was inconceivable. It was bad. They're going to give these people the leeway to respond directly with this poor and understanding, and as cruel as it was established that they are, and as non-survivor focused, as abuser supportive as they are, they're really going to let them respond directly. I think if anybody has watched the Australian Royal Commission, the Watchtower organization saying that they're responding directly should be a big fat oh hell no. Screw that. Somebody needs to get in the middle of it, and I have faith that the Australian Royal Government is working on, Australian Royal Commission is working on a plan. They better be working on a plan, because I am a big fan of them right now, and I'd hate to be disappointed. And then they tried to claim that they will continue to be responding directly in a caring, fair, and principled manner. Based on whose principles? We established what their principles were. Their principles were all focused on redeeming the abuser and doing what science and psychology have been trying to do for freaking decades. That they've got no business doing. And to backhand the good intent of the Australian Royal Commission and saying that their methods are caring and fair, that is an insult. That is an insult to all the good people who have put so much effort into trying to establish the need for this redress. The investigation and the hours that went into this, the heartbreak that people had to deal with reading these stories and talking to these victims. What a backhanded freaking comment. They've got some nerve. They have got a lot of nerve. I can't say I'm into religion, but I call myself spiritual, and I am praying for everybody involved in this because they are being just disrespected in every way humanly possible by this organization. The victims are being disrespected and abused, continuously abused. They are making sure this is going to be a long-term trauma for every one of these victims who doesn't have the means to get help. That's what the purpose of this redress scheme is for, is to get help and counseling and an apology from the organizations that abuse their power, their authority, and their trust and put these victims in this situation. I need a minute, y'all. Anywho. And how do we know that anything is going to change once again if they don't tell us how they're handling this? If they're going to handle this on their own, they ought to be darn well responsible for telling people how it's done. Because they were basically calcitrant litigants, calcitrant witnesses. They didn't want to cooperate. They were vague. They were deceptive. They were vague. They were playing dumb. They know darn well what they're doing. But that's a whole nother circumstance. All right, another circumstance that they brought up. They will be responding to the unique circumstances of each claim. How? By putting them back in front of a bunch of freaking elders who were not qualified and did more damage than good to begin with. By having somebody try and get the unique details of each claim. What kind of panties were you wearing? What kind of dress did you have? Were you out with mixed company, as in male and females, at like a restaurant? Asking for details. Like, no, you're not the one to establish the unique circumstances. Fuck off. Leave these poor kids alone. And let some trained counselors and professionals deal with the details that need to be dealt with. Screw off. And that's another thing I'm betting they're counting on. As long as these people have got to go through the same people that allowed the abuse, you can bet darn well that is traumatizing to the victims. Putting it on paper is traumatizing. Putting it in words at all is traumatizing. Having to deal with the same people who dealt with them before. Having to deal with the buddies. Having to deal with the same building where it may have happened. Because you know darn well that they're going to try and create respect for the occasion and have them go to the Kingdom Hall to have these discussions. Like, there's so much wrong with this that they have zero sensitivity, zero education, and zero business doing this crap. They do not need to be the ones establishing the unique circumstances of each claim. Now, my guess on why they just outrightly refuse to take part in this there's a lot of details that people would be privy to. My guess is, in the sake of transparency, the government would at least provide a Freedom of Information Act if they didn't have it publicly published onto each of these cases, which would basically create the Me Too movement again. You know, one abuse victim spoke out. I know about it. They went through the same thing I did. Maybe I can do this too. They don't want that. They don't want the rank and file to know what they've been hiding. They don't want anybody to know details of anything. Period. It doesn't suit their image that they've carefully manicured. Reason number 2 that I feel like that they are not going to do it. I'm back. But my phone overheated and I needed to be able to park and read this next statement though. The big reason Watchtower would not be signing up, I think, is in writing. Not their writing. But I needed to be able to stop and read this rather than catch 1 or 2 words at a time. According to the Australian Royal Commission, it typically takes between 3 and 6 months. That's a lot of details here, man. It typically takes between 3 and 6 months to complete the onboarding process of the redress scheme, as the scheme requires detailed financial and historical information to support the assessment of applications. Can anybody ever tell me when Watchtower was transparent about exactly how much money they have, where it goes, what real estate dealings they're in? Does anybody know? I think Mike and Kim got awful close with the amount of real estate that they have. They're creating a database. But that right there, I am pretty sure has a lot to do with why they have not signed up. That, and they've never been known to provide an apology. They're protecting their image. They're trying to keep other victims quiet. And they're trying to protect their assets. They're trying to protect their financial information and historical information, because odds are this problem is bigger than the Australian Royal Commission is aware of. I'd put money on it. They don't want to provide the financial or historical information. They don't want to fess up or give the government any information, because they've got a lot to hide. They don't want it public. They don't want people knowing how much money they've got. But y'all take that information where you want to, because there's plenty of other YouTube videos that could take that last point right there and run for miles with it. And y'all enjoy your night.